Good morning, Jackednnerdy fans. Welcome to another review video. Today we are reviewing the new HBO Apple TV series Masters of Air. I've been eagerly awaiting this show for quite some time, but before we jump into that review, as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you guys never miss out on a video. And if you do enjoy our content, please make sure you give these videos a thumbs up. It greatly supports the channel and it doesn't cost you a thing. So, this is the third installment. Masters of Air is the third installment of the Band of Brothers kind of franchise that Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks have been writing and producing together. So if you're not familiar with the franchise, I highly recommend that you go back and watch the very first series, basically titled Band of Brothers, which was done by HBO back in the early 2000s. It is absolutely phenomenal and by far one of my favorite all-time series. I rewatch it probably 2 to 3 times a year because it's just so fantastically made. Brilliant cast of actors. You've got the likes of a young Tom Hardy. It's just mind-blowing, the very first series, Band of Brothers. So, Band of Brothers was the 101st Airborne. Then there was a second series which was based on the Marines in the Pacific World War, the Pacific engagements. Now, Masters of Air, if you haven't already guessed it, follows the story of the airmen who were fighting in World War II in Europe, basically doing the air raids and things like that. So as soon as they said that they were doing another installment of the Band of Brothers franchise, 100% I was already in. But as things started to come out about this show, specifically about the cast, my anticipation levels just rose and rose and rose. If you're not already aware, Austin Butler is one of the leads in this. You would remember him from Elvis and from Dune. Young up-and-coming actor. I think he's got a fantastic future ahead of him. It also had the likes of Callum Turner, who was absolutely brilliant. Barry Keoghan, Barry Keoghan, who you would know from The Eternals. Another brilliant young up-and-coming actor. I think he's got a fantastic future ahead of him. Then you've got Nate Mann, Isabel May. You've got Anthony Boyle, who is also one of the leads. He was absolutely brilliant. I loved seeing him on screen. He was a very lovable character. And basically, so obviously it tells you the story of these airmen basically making the journey. Right from the beginning, it's telling the story of them making the journey from America over to where they were stationed in England, and then it basically tells the story of these characters and their battalion and everything over the course of the war, all the way through until the end. So they cover a very, very large span of time, which, in my opinion, it hindered it a little bit because it was such an expansive amount of time that they had to cover. Now, that being said, the very first Band of Brothers covered everything from their basic training through to the conclusion of the war, but season 1 of Band of Brothers was, I think, 10 episodes. This is only 8 episodes. So that not only do they cover the same spans of time, but they had to condense it down to 8 episodes, which I do feel was to the detriment of the series. I would have liked to have seen them just do a full 10 season stretch. But but that being said, they with the time that they had, they made it work as best as they could. Like I said, my only criticism is that I felt that they had to condense it down too much. So I would have liked to have seen them take a bit more time and tell a few more different stories and go into a bit more detail. But that's just a personal preference. I would like to see... with these types of shows, I always figure more is better rather than less is better. So that's, just, again, just my personal opinion. That being said, the other thing which I think they did do well is... to their benefit is... So most of the episodes are that 45 to 50 minutes. But in the final episode, which just aired last week, a couple of days ago, or last week, they did make the final episode a little bit longer so that they could just round everything off nicely. And they did round off everything nicely. You know, a lot of problems with series these days is that, you know, the final episode of the seasons always feel rushed. They feel anticlimactic. They don't feel that they... kind of round things off properly. I suppose when you're telling a story that's based on actual events, especially a war like World War II, that you know that there is a conclusion. Like, it's not a case of, oh, you know, could there be a season 2, or, you know, could something happen and start up again? No, you need to round everything off and tell a completely contained story, because that's what happened, basically. So, I mean, look, top to bottom, I absolutely loved this show. You know, the acting was fantastic, the storytelling was great, the character development was brilliant. I mean, again, all of these characters are based on actual people, and you know, so you've got that element. And one thing that Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg and I have done really, really well with these shows is that they get the actors to actually meet the people that, well, I mean, assuming they're still alive, they get the actors to meet the people who are actually there and the people that they're portraying, or they get, you know, they meet people who served with them and get them to tell stories, so they get a real feel for the character, and they can portray the character in the most accurate way possible. So, look, top to bottom, I absolutely loved this show. Is it as good as the very first season? No. I'm going to say that straight from the outset. But I'm biased because I absolutely adore the first season. That, as I said before, to me, it's one of the greatest shows ever made. And so I don't think anything will ever beat that in terms of a World War II drama production. I just don't think, at least in my lifetime, I don't think it will ever get beaten. However, I'm always open to being proven wrong. So, in my opinion, look, Masters of Air is absolutely fantastic. Austin Butler did a fantastic job. Anthony Boyle is absolutely brilliant. Callum Turner, top to bottom, absolutely love this show. It is streaming now on, I believe, Apple TV and maybe HBO. But it's streaming now, so all 8 episodes, so you can basically binge it in maybe 2 or 3 days if you really want to. But I highly encourage anyone who enjoys, war dramas or is a fan of war history. Definitely check out Masters of Air, and if you do get the opportunity, go back and watch the HBO ones of Band of Brothers and the Pacific. You definitely won't be disappointed. So head on over, check it out. That's my review of Masters of Air. Personally, I give this a good solid 8 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. On IMDB, it's got a score of 7.9 out of 10, which is fantastic, and a Rotten Tomatoes score of 85%, which I think is absolutely brilliant as well. So across the board, everyone seems to be loving this show. So do yourself a favor, if you haven't watched it, if you're not familiar with it, head on over, check it out. It's streaming now. Now, also, as I said at the top of the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any content. This week's a big week. We've got Roadhouse and we've got Ghostbusters coming out. I can't wait to see both of those movies. Next week we've got Godzilla versus Godzilla and Kong. So we've got heaps more content coming out. So smash that subscribe button so you never miss out on a video. And until next time, guys, stay jacked and stay nerdy.